New England is one of the most beautiful parts of North America. We're blessed with mountains, a seacoast, diverse woodlands, and picturesque farmlands like this apple farm here. Many of us take advantage of the natural world around us, but it often seems there's not enough time to just sit back and relax and enjoy its beauty. Well, that is about to change. Welcome to Windows to the Wild. I'm Willem Lang. We're presenting a series of programs that record the beauty, diversity, and character of New England's natural world. In the next half hour, we'll tour the DeMeritt Hill Apple Farm in Lee, New Hampshire, and we'll learn a little bit about the history, traditions, and the current realities of New England's apple harvest. New Hampshire grows about 1 million bushels of apples a year. That's about 1 million of these things, and that creates an $8 million industry. Now, many people say that the apples grown here are the sweetest you'll ever taste. They come from this rocky soil. To me, their combination of sweetness and tartness captures perfectly the essence of life here in this rugged climate. There are over 40 varieties. The most popular currently are McIntosh and Cortland, New England Red Delicious, Maccoon, Empire, and Rome. Many varieties were developed right here in New England, and some go back for centuries. Did you know the Pilgrims planted the first American apple trees in the Massachusetts Bay Colony?
Our whole fall season, we're out here doing all that work in the orchard throughout the year. It's nice in September and October and early November to share it with everybody, and it's a treat. We do several thousand school children throughout the week on school visits. It's an educational and fun process. And then on the weekends, it's a sea of folks out here just picking, enjoying family reunions and get-togethers.
Isn't that neat?
Yes.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, this is a school group, obviously, from somewhere around
here. It is from Portsmouth, yes.
Oh, yeah. Sure enough.
Yeah.
Little guys. But they're into it.
Yeah.
Now, each one of them gets a little bag to fill.
Each one picks a quarter of a peck of apples, and then we do an age-appropriate science lesson with Mrs. Wilson down at our old New England schoolhouse replica. And then they get a chance to try some of our sweet cider, some snacks, visit with our farm animals, and play.
One bushel of apples weighs 42 pounds and makes between 20 and 24 quarts of applesauce. But I don't think I'd make applesauce out of these beauties.
Now, when you're looking for an apple, you want to make sure it's a nice color, has a nice blush to it, depending on the kind of apple that you're picking. You want to make sure that it doesn't have any say marks or holes or anything else in it. And we prune the tree so it gets nice amount of sun so that they should be colored up really well. And all you do is you grab it and you turn it. Oopsie, now I wouldn't take that one. See that?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so that's, now it looks great from this side, but it's important that you turn it and then you can see that, I'm leaving that one for the deer. And I'd go to the next one and I'd turn it a little bit. See, I'm happy with that one. And I just keep turning it until it comes off in your hand. And that's how you do it.
Beautiful. Good looking apple too. And the other one is you turn it up toward the sky.
You can just turn it up to the sky if you'd like. You take a look at it and you just turn it up and it comes right off again.
Beautiful.
So you have two choices.
There's nothing to that.
Two lunches, there you go.
And you got to handle them very carefully. Right?
Very careful. You cannot grab them because what will happen is you will bruise them. If you grab them like this and yank very hard, tomorrow you will have fingerprints on the apple.
No kidding.
Yep. So it's very, very delicate in that sense.
This farm was founded around 1820 by the DeMeritt family. Johnny Appleseed, his real name was John Chapman, was famous for spreading apple seeds in orchards all along the middle of America back in the 1800s. Supposedly, he wore a tin pot on his head with the handle sticking out to the side. He was born in Leominster, Mass., just south of the New Hampshire border, on September 26, 1774. How long have apples been around that we know of?
Well, there's a lot of debate about it, but the Egyptians
That's a good question.
Yeah, the Egyptians are credited with the best record keeping. In fact, up to 37 varieties they have records of in the 16th century. So, yeah.
16th century BC or
BC.
BC,
Yes.
Okay. Well, when we were kids, we were told that the apple was invented, before people.
Mm-hmm.
But I checked my Bible and it doesn't say apple.
Doesn't
it just
say
says
apple,
fruit.
just the forbidden fruit. Yes.
So the apple came around sometime.
Yeah. Pilgrims planted, offshore islands were planted with orchards by fishermen.
Really?
Yeah. They've always been a staple of the community. They're a fixture in the community.
If you plant them on an island, of course, it keeps the deer out of them, I suppose.
I don't imagine they've got too many wild deer out there. It was handy for the fishermen to stock
neat.
up as they were heading back to ports. Good job there, buddy.
Whoa, you got 4 in there? You got 5 in there. Wow, that's a good job. Your name is, don't go away, Sam.
They're all shy.
Oh, you're from Shaw. Got it. Behind us is kind of a little schoolhouse, right?
Yes, it's correct.
It wasn't originally a schoolhouse.
No. We had gone to the library in Lee, and we took some information and some photos of what an old schoolhouse would look like, and we tried to replicate it.
That's nice. And the purpose is?
Well, originally we would always have school lessons in my store, and it was very difficult to break the store up and put it back together. So my husband asked me, what would you like? And I said, how about a schoolhouse? And so that summer, he built a schoolhouse
for
me.
What a guy.
Yeah, he's a really great guy.
Okay, so how many kids can you fit in there?
Well, we fit 62 in there today with all the parents, about another 30 parents in there. So we can fit a lot in there.
And what do you tell them?
Well, we talk, it's all educationally grade level, so it depends on the age of the child. We have a really interesting book that talks about all types of apples, colors of apples, pollination and bees, and how they come for the 12 days of full bloom and they stay. And then we talk about the picking and the picking bucket, and we give them a general overall view of apples and what they're used for.
You have one of those metal buckets with the cloth
We have a metal bucket,
Oh, that's great.
Talk about the Jamaican pickers and the ladders and all kinds of interesting things that kids have never seen before.
Did you know that the longest apple peel in the world was created by Kathy Madison of Rochester, New York on October 16th, 1976? I didn't think you did. It was 172 feet, 4 inches long, about the distance from me to that pond down there. Kathy created it when she was 16 years old and later grew up to be, what else? A sales manager for an apple tree nursery. An apple tree will start bearing fruit about 8 to 10 years after it's planted. A dwarf tree will bear fruit in 3 to 6 years.
These are dwarf trees, and if you notice, each tree has a stake on it.
Yep.
And the reason being is because the root system is not as extensive as it would be on a main tree.
Sure.
And you see the wire running across the top and the big timbers. That's to support them even more. Because you worry about heavy winds or heavy rains and them falling over. And if you notice on the bottom, the metal, that's a mouse guard to protect the trees in the winter, because if the snow level gets up really high, then the mice girdle the trees and eat them.
God bless them.
So,
Rabbits don't bother, or porcupines, nothing like that.
Just mice and deer. Just mice and deer.
And these are easier for kids to pick from.
Yep, that's why we're changing the whole orchard. We're getting rid of the big standard trees because our population is becoming children. And I really feel really strongly, and as an educational aspect, that children learn how to pick off trees. Do that, so.
Did you know that apples are sodium, cholesterol, and fat-free, and that the average apple has about 80 calories, and that the average American eats about 19.6 pounds a year? Now, farms generally are having a hard time these days. Dairy farms, orchards, everything. So you're diversifying, I presume, in order to...
We are. We're more in agritourism. We've learned through the years that it's better to sell an apple retail than wholesale. And what we're doing is, I was a former school teacher for kindergarten for 14 years,
Yeah.
and I really feel the tourism for parents to come with children and make it a fun day rather than just go pick apples and go away.
Yeah.
That's why we have educational signs around the whole farm. Like we have a sign right there about the pumpkins and how to
Yeah,
grow them. As you go through the orchard, we have did you know signs that we plant. Did you know that New Hampshire grows more rocks than any place else? And we have fun signs so the adults can learn. We have
Yeah.
trails and nature trails for children and trails on timbering for adults, and we have dinosaur trails. And so
Goody.
you come and you learn and then you pick apples.
Oh. I like what you said earlier about it's so much better to sell an apple retail than wholesale.
Oh, you like that?
Well, yeah, I did. I like the idea. But how do you manage to do that? You have it by having people come?
Well, we do. We really don't advertise because we get almost local people, and if people are looking in September for places to go and be entertained and have, we'll say, agritourism. And it's just not picking apples. They want to come and stay. They want to participate in a lot of things, have things for their children, learn, and that's what makes it nice, this farm, because it's always, you can be so creative. My husband and I just enjoy talks at night. Well, let's do this, let's do that, let's add this, let's add that. And we're fortunate enough that we can do that, and that makes it fun for us. Yeah.
Most apples are still picked by hand in the fall. The science of apple growing is called pomology. Growing apples can't be quite as simple as it looks. I mean, you don't just stick a tree in the ground and go pick them a few years later, right?
No, there's a process involved. It involves an entire year of management after they're planted, and it revolves around the pruning process in the dormant season.
Yeah.
And then throughout the spring, it's a constant process of spraying to protect the apples from fungicidal threats, insect threats, and as well as fertilizing, mowing, and then training trees, young trees, for shape and keeping them in the rows and in their spaces. Yeah.
You're busy year-round here.
It is. It's an entire year's process, yeah.
And you prune them, what, late winter, just before?
The large standard trees, which are some of the original plantings, about 13 acres here, we prune in the dead of winter. They can take that in January and February, and then the dwarf trees are a lot smaller and more sensitive when we prune those in early spring, usually the first couple of weeks of March.
Right, and you have to do that to get the fruit.
Promotes tree vigor, and then the other management techniques promote rebud and fruit production. Yeah.
Over 7,500 varieties are grown around the world, 2,500 here in the United States, and only 100 grown commercially in 36 states. Apple trees can be grown farther north than most other fruits because they blossom late in spring, minimizing frost damage.
The New England climate is perfect for growing apples, but it brings the cold, wet springs and hot summers do bring quite a bit of threat, both from a fungicidal aspect and insects. Apple scab in the spring being the primary threat. So late April, usually around the 20th or the 25th, as the trees bud out, then the spray season begins, and as the trees progress through their stages, through the bloom, petal fall, and into fruit production, we're constantly applying the right amount of fungicide or insecticide to counter a particular threat as they arise in the orchard. We trap insects and measure them to a threshold where they'll pose a significant amount of damage to the crop, and then we'll treat for it. And then we'll count degree days and look at climatic conditions to look at the fungicidal threats. And if the conditions are right, we'll have to reapply and recover.
And none of these fungicides or insecticides are also homicidal?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
They're not.
Just
But
checking.
but it takes good stewardship. We take groundwater management, pollution pretty seriously. You have to be licensed to handle them,
Yeah.
and so proper application, storage, and handling is the key, so we don't end up with any environmental issues. Yes.
Now, when I was a kid, my first day in New England, 56 years and 1 month ago, I picked apples.
Okay.
It was part of my curriculum was to pick apples, and they were Cortlands, little fellas. Beautiful day.
Well, I hope you get a chance to pick a nice Matsu or a Jonagold today before you go.
Is that what they are? They're beautiful. And at that time, we weren't concerned about things like E. coli, and we used the drops to
Yes.
make cider, but you can't do that anymore.
We don't
right?
use drops to make cider. Certain new laws do allow for it in small operations
really?
that produce only for themselves, don't wholesale their cider.
Yeah.
But we fall under that category in which all the apples have to be certified that they are handpicked.
Huh.
Recent pasteurization laws and studies on sanitation with cider created that law, and that's that's the way we have to go now.
So what do you do with your drops? Feed the deer?
Feed the deer for the most part. We do. Folks do come out and use them for. We allow them to come out in the orchard cleanup season and collect drops for their holiday pies and those kinds of things, and they can go over them. But yeah, from a large scale operation, we can't utilize them to press cider and wholesale it.
It takes about 36 apples to make 1 gallon of cider. Apples are the second most valuable fruit in the United States. Oranges are first. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is Diana Russell from Somersworth, and she's going to show me how to make an apple pie, which I've always wanted to know how to do.
Oh,
You can
easy.
do that, you think?
Yeah.
Even me?
Yes.
Let's,
Simple.
Let's do
You
it.
gotta have the right apples.
Okay. Oh yeah, apples.
Oh yes, we got Max and Cortlands are the best.
Macintosh are the best.
And Cortlands. Cortlands hold the shape.
Well, those are my two favorite
Yes.
apples. That's great.
And what we do is cut them up.
Yeah.
And I actually put the sugar in here. You don't put too much. You want it a little tart.
Yeah.
And
Well, there's cinnamon too,
that's
right?
that's actually.
Oh, apple pie spice. I get it.
So it's got the cinnamon, nutmeg, everything in there.
Yeah.
And I put a little bit of flour so it doesn't get mushy.
Yeah.
You gotta
Oh,
mix
I
it
see.
all.
Huh.
And it was absorbed.
How
Some of
many
that.
apples is that?
We cut up approximately 6 good size ones.
Yeah.
You get smaller ones, you want a little more.
Okay.
I like a full pie
Okay.
because it is going to shrink down. So
right.
do that. I always prepare that first.
Okay,
Then you want it,
6
and I
good
prepared
size.
my pie crust.
Yep. Oh, you got that ready already?
Oh yes.
You've already rolled
Yeah,
it
because
out.
it would take too long.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get this out.
If I can help, or just let me know if I can just get out of the
Do
way.
a lot of, you don't want it sticking.
Right? Okay.
Hands on.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Don't have it too thin. Put a little bit in here so it doesn't stick to the bottom when you're cutting your nice
Yeah.
pie.
You don't grease the pan. You just
No,
use flour.
no, never.
Okay.
No. Then you're gonna take, let me get something here.
All right.
You always puncture the bottom so air gets to it
Yeah.
and it doesn't come up and bubble.
And you don't want to go all the way through the pan if you can help it.
No,
Right?
no, you gotta take it easy. So once you get that done,
Yeah.
you're gonna put your apples in.
Oh, God, that's gorgeous.
Oh, and these are the best apples, right from the farm. Now, I might have cut too many.
Now, how long ago were they picked, do you suppose? Hours or days?
A few days. We
Yeah.
got them right off the tree.
That is going to be full pie.
Yeah,
But
I
it does
had a
shrink
little bit too
huh?
much.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Sure.
You can always nibble on the apples.
Yeah,
after.
exactly.
Okay, and I always put some butter on the top
Oh.
because that will help from the top. It will help hold the top onto that. So you don't want to have it.
Holds the top on.
Yeah, you don't want to have the top of the crust coming up into bubbly.
Yeah.
So this will help stick it.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, then once you get that done, oh, that's gonna be a good pie.
Well, yeah. How long we gotta wait before it's ready?
Oh,
That's
it takes an hour.
Oh, gee.
You have to bake it right.
Do you still put them on the windowsill to cool after you make them?
No, somebody might take them.
Yeah, or birds maybe.
So you want to roll this out.
Yeah.
You want to put it on here.
You've done this before, Diana.
Oh,
I can
many,
tell.
many, many. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, and then you want to push it enough so you have it nice and tight.
Yeah.
And you're going to take your knife. Now, you're going to cut right along.
Oh, my mother used to take that leftover crust and bake it by itself.
Cinnamon and sugar.
Yes, cinnamon and
Yeah.
sometimes brown sugar.
Right.
Oh, that was great.
Now, I'll show you what I do with the extra. Usually don't do them to all of them because it would take too long when we have a lot of pies.
Yeah, right.
So you just want to pinch it. Make it a little bit pretty.
Yeah. You never use a fork to do that?
Yeah, but
Back in the fork.
you could.
Yeah. I like this better.
Holes. And we're going to take some of this and make something neat. And make you an apple.
Now, that's edible just as it is.
Yes,
isn't
it is.
So I think maybe I'll...
Try the piece
Can
of
I have a
that.
little?
Yes, you can. It may not be too sweet.
Oh, it's great.
Take this.
What's this going to be? Oh, I see.
Apple for the top. And stick a little bit of butter. And you have your pie.
Beautiful. That goes in the oven for how long?
1 hour.
1 hour at.
350.
That's
Put
easy
it on
to
your
remember.
sheet. Oven's all ready. Open it up. And put it right in. And you get your pie.
Thank you.
How's that?
It takes the energy from 50 leaves to produce 1 apple.
Tell me by raising their hand if you know the name of a green apple. Yes, sir. Way back there. No, you. You have to know the name before you raise your hand. Yes, sir. Granny Smith. Good. Now, Granny Smith. I think the biggest threat to New Hampshire apple orchards is the development. Builders asking you to sell your property for housing, and people moving from the cities, from Boston, coming through and wanting an acre or two and things like that. We get advertisements, actually, people asking us to sell property, sell off 40 acres here or there, and you know, you have to really make a conscious decision. Do you want to sell the farm or do you want to keep it afloat? And so that's why we've tried to diversify as much as we can as far as doing the apples, and we do have some peaches, and we do have, we talked about the agritourism, bringing families in and staying for the day, and hoping that, you know, in the future we'll be able to keep the farm as a farm, so to speak.
So you say the biggest threat to it is development, then?
Yes, we have friends in other areas that have had a very large orchard, and they were getting offers all the time to sell their property, and finally this year they got an offer they couldn't refuse, and all their things went up for auction, and now it's so many houses in there, at least 100 and some odd houses in this town. So it's really hard for people to keep going, and the taxes keep going up, and it's the same thing with everyone in their home, trying to make ends meet. My husband has 2 other jobs in New York to keep this thing going. You know, it's hard. It's very hard, but we enjoy it and we like the property and we really like people to come and visit and stay and enjoy it as much as we do. So we're going to keep it going as long as we can.
Well, as you can see, if you're going to sell apples in New England, you've got to do more than just raise apples. In order to survive, you're probably going to have to diversify. And the folks here at DeMeritt Hill Farm seem to be doing that just beautifully. For Windows to the Wild, I'm Willem Lang, and I'll see you again outdoors.